Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is PJP. In this video I'm gonna start my new series on my channel in which I'm going to be reviewing the original Charmed TV series. Now if you were with my channel from the beginning, you would know that I did try to react to this TV series, but it constantly got claimed to the point where it got way too bothersome to even try to edit and find out a way for it to not get claimed, so I just gave up. And instead what I've decided to do is I'm going to be reviewing each and every episode as I watch them. In this video though, since I'm already on episode 5, or I think I'm pretty sure it's on episode 5, I'm going to be doing a small recap and a review of the first 4 episodes, since I've already seen them. So yeah, but before I go and do that, I want to apologize to my subscribers that I've been away for the last 3 days. I had some technical difficulties and I was kind of busy. I didn't really have time to record anything, so that's why I was away. So now that I've said that, let's get into the review. Starting with the first episode. In the first episode, as you would expect, it sets up the characters of the 3 sisters. The episode opens up with a killer who kills a supposed witch, and then it changes to our 3 main characters, Prue, Piper, and Phoebe. Prue and Piper have been living together in their old house for a long time, and then Piper tells Prue that Phoebe is gonna be moving in with them, because in the meantime she was, I believe in LA or New York, I don't know, it was one of those cities. So she decided to move back home because she was in death or something. And they end up meeting, but before they meet we learn that Prue wasn't really on good terms with Phoebe, and personally the reason why they weren't on good terms, or at least as I understood that as the reason that they weren't on good terms, it kind of annoys me, and I'm not sure if I should consider it sexist, because the reason why they were angry at each other is because Phoebe supposedly slept with Prue's boss, Roger. This is his picture. I'm probably at least gonna be putting pictures in my videos. As I understood, that is the reason. I'm not sure because it was kind of unclear when I watched the episode, but let's say it is. I personally feel like it's kind of sexist how it shows women as these kind of people who get angry at each other over stupid things. I don't know, maybe it's just me. And what happens next is, for some reason they decide to do a Ouija board thing, and the planchette, I think it's called, moves on its own. They don't believe Phoebe at first because they weren't in the room to see it, but then Piper sees it, she calls Prue, which she still doesn't believe. Then the power goes out and the Ouija board ends up pointing to the letters A, T, T, I, and C, thus writing out attic. So Phoebe goes to the attic and finds the door unlocked because it was set up beforehand that the door should be locked and that they couldn't get in, but she gets in without a problem, and she ends up reading the first page of the Book of Shadows, which gives them their powers, and the rest of the episode is then them slowly finding out that they have powers, with Prue quitting her job, Phoebe saving 2 guys from being hit by a car, and Prue Prue freezing time before her boss, Chef Moore, eating something that she was preparing for him, but she didn't have time to prepare it. So I really like how this episode sets up the characters of the sisters and their kind of, you could say, lives. Prue is an antique expert. Phoebe at this point is without a job, and Prue and Piper is a cook at the Quake restaurant. And of course there's a villain, but he's the only important thing I have to say about him is that he was Piper's boyfriend, which we just met, so it doesn't really matter. And one thing I gotta point out, because during the reaction, because I did try to record it, is how there this early the show really is not sure what tone it should go for and how the actors should act, at least outside of the three sisters. Some of the villains are very cheesy. Like for example, the guy, the villain of the episode, who was a warlock called Jeremy, he had a knife, and he would always hold it like this. It was so weird. Plus, there was a scene in which he did this with his face. How is this threatening? Like, how is this threatening? I don't get it. But yeah, overall I liked it, if anything because of how it sets up the characters, and honestly the strength of this series so far for me is definitely the characters. And as I'm going to be pointing out when I get to the next 3 episodes, I'm surprised how much I actually enjoy seeing their daily lives and things like that. Plus, I also gotta point out that Piper is adorable. I know here, and also all 3 of them are so pretty and so young, and I know this is the first season, but I felt like I had to point it out. So yeah, I'm going to be rating this episode, so I've already rated it. I believe I rated it 7.8. Not really a specific reason why I chose that number. It's usually the way I rate things. The number pops in my head, and I need few things just to guide it towards what exactly it is. For example, an episode might feel like a 7, but if I want to be a bit more precise, I choose things that I hate, things that I like, and then I maybe end up making the rating be 7.4, 7.8, and etc. So yeah, it's a 7.8. It's a pretty decent opener, and I'm not going to be comparing to the new one though, because I haven't watched it. But if today's entertainment is anything to go by, it probably sucks because it focuses on the wrong things. I feel like entertainment in general nowadays, it just goes for the spectacle, CGI, and doesn't even give a shit about the characters. I can tell you for a fact that probably the characters of the 3 sisters in the new series are indistinguishable from each other, as I'm going to be pointing out in my review for the 5th episode, I believe it is, which is going to be the next Charmed video you going to see. I really like how they actually have different personalities. There are things that Prue would say, and there are things that Piper would say, and there are things that Phoebe would say, and their dialogue and things they would say are not interchangeable, which even without seeing the new series, I can tell you that most of their dialogue is going to be interchangeable. But yeah, that's how I feel about the first episode. Let's move on to the second episode. It's kind of not really memorable, at least parts of it. Like the villain is very forgettable in my opinion. Like the most memorable part about this episode is Piper's kind of arc, I guess you could call it, in this episode, where because in the opening she watches a documentary, I believe it is, about witches, who where it says that if you're a bad witch and you try to enter a church, you're gonna be struck by lightning, and she's scared now to get into a church in which she takes food in the beginning in the episode. So over the course of the episode, she several times tries to enter the church and scared, and was scared for the majority of it, but of course at the end she succeeds because they are good witches. And what else happens in this episode? Oh yeah, Prue finds herself a new job. I don't know really what I mean. It seems like it was pretty much the same thing, and Phoebe was being I don't know what word should I use for this, but she met a guy who turned out to be the villain of the episode, called Javna, who was taking people, or specifically women's young age, and making him old and then making himself young. And of course, they easily dispatch of him. That said, I actually enjoyed this episode more than the first one, because as I said for my review for the last one a few minutes ago, I'm surprised how much I actually enjoy their daily lives. Sometimes that is actually the most interesting parts of the episode, at least of these early episodes, because the villains are very forgettable. I can't wait till we get to Cole, which I think he comes in season 3 or 4 or something even later, I don't know. I haven't watched this series in a while, okay? I watched it when I was little, because my sister, not my sister, my cousin, used to watch it, and I ended up loving it because of that. And despite all of this, I think this episode is better than the last one. Pretty much because of said daily life shenanigans. Also, something that mainly stood out to me in the later episodes, I gotta point out how much I love Andy and his partners bickering and things. Like, it's very interesting in my opinion. And as you're going to hear from me explain it when I get to episode 5 review, I feel like he's slowly starting to believe Andy, because I feel like Andy, not necessarily he's superstitious, but he believes that there are things that cannot be explained by normal means, as I'm going to be talking about in my review for episode 5. So I'm rating this episode an 8 out of 10, and you're gonna see a trend for the next 2 episodes too. Episode 3. Episode 3 is kind of an interesting one, because for the last 2 episodes, we were told of the girl's father and how he left him years ago, I guess, and how bad of a father I guess he was. And then guess who shows up in that episode? Yep, their father. But Prue doesn't like that. She hates him. I mean, it was pointed out in the last 3 episodes several times how much she hates him. So of course, at first she kind of tells him to go away. Then she tells her sister that he's back, and that he has invited them to a dinner, and they choose to go, at least Piper and Phoebe. But before the dinner, Phoebe chose to go to his apartment, where she talks to him. He doesn't recognize her because he hasn't seen her grown up. But anyway, when she hugs him, she has a premonition of him stealing the Book of Shadows, which is the book which has all the spells, as you probably already know, but I'm explaining anyway. But the funny thing is that, actually, I'm gonna get to it later. I gotta point out how in the opening of the episode, the girls go to a party on the opposite side of the street, and there are their new neighbors, I think they were, and one of them has such a weird voice. Like, as I said in the review for the first episode, there's some cheesy and weird things where the show doesn't know how, or the actors don't know how exactly to act. They don't know if they should take themselves seriously or be a little bit cheesy. So that stood out to me. And there was the main villain guy, because there were 3 people, 2 guys and 1 girl, and the main villain of the trio, like, I don't know how to explain it, but his performance was pretty interesting. The way he was speaking was cool and really entertaining. one thing I didn't understand is whether these guys blackmailed the father of the girls before the episode even started, or during the episode in the scene where we see them meet, whether they blackmailed him then or beforehand to steal the book, because that apparently that's why he was back, as I understand. But yeah, the girls end up going to the dinner, Piper and Phoebe. But then after talking with Andy, Prue decides to go there too. Then the father tricks them into revealing their powers, which he actually already knew about. So they get back home and speak and have an argument, and Prue pushes him away with her power and he leaves. And they don't want to see him again, at least Prue. And on the next day, Phoebe goes out to get the newspaper, I think. Then he shows up, because we were shown in a scene before that those three villains from who are the neighbors actually blackmailed him to steal the book. So that's why he was there. But when talking to Phoebe, he tells her to look, which means she's able to see more of her premonition, to see that those three villains are actually shapeshifters, which actually have shapeshifted into the form of the dad and stole the book. But yeah, then they get into the home, all of them. One of the shapeshifters turns into her dad, and they try to find out who it is. And they destroy the villains. I gotta say, this is one of the more interesting episodes too, because of at least on first watch, it's one of the more interesting ones, because we're shown a character from the backstory of the girls, which is cool. At some point, I believe we're gonna see their grandma and their mother. I'm not sure, but I think we will. So I really like that, but I didn't like it more than the last episode, which is why I pretty much rated this one as much as the first one, 7.8. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm not really expanding on this, but I'm trying to rush through this review so I can get to the next one before I forget what I think about it, because I just watched it. But yeah, episode 4 is probably the coolest one so far. It's gonna get beaten by episode 5, but still, it's the coolest one so far, in a way. In episode 4 we essentially have Ghost Whisperers, if you know that TV show. If you don't, Ghost Whisperers was a TV show about a woman called Melinda Gordon who could see and talk to dead people, and usually the usual episode consisted of her meeting a ghost, finding out how that ghost died, or understanding more about them, and then ending up talking with the relatives of that ghost, thus allowing the ghost to pass on to the afterlife. So in a way, this is pretty much this episode. It's a bit more kind of unique, but I'm pretty sure something similar must have been done at some point in Ghost Whispers. But anyway, to recap what happened in the episode, we open up with one Chinese guy called Mark, of course. And he gets killed by a gang of other, I assume, Chinese people. Then he realizes that he's a ghost, so he searches for people who can actually speak or talk to him. Then he meets Phoebe and Piper, who at first don't realize that he's a ghost. Then he talks to Piper again. She's and a biker, person on a bike goes through him, and she realizes that he's an actual ghost. And also because of some Chinese superstition where if you don't bury the body, as they put it, Chinese Satan, is going to take that person's soul and send them to hell. So Mark and Piper go to find his body, but they meet that ghost, that Satan, Chinese Satan, and are scared away, so they run away. Later on, the police finds the body, but it appears that it was falsified, so they thought that this body belonged to the person who killed Mark. So what the rest of the episode consists of is trying to finding where the gang is, and Piper uses her abilities to freeze time, put the guy who killed Mark, put newspaper in his hands, as you can see in this picture, and take a picture of him and give it to the police to prove that he's actually alive and that body isn't his, so they can take the body and bury it and tell his mom that he's actually dead. And they of course succeed, and as you expect, he passes on to the afterlife and everything goes well. And I kind of like this episode because it was, yeah, as I said, as like Ghost Whispers, which is a show I enjoy a lot. And once I'm done with Charmed, I'm going to try to react to it, and if the owner, which probably might be the same as the one of Charmed, doesn't decide to copyright strike me, I will upload reactions and not reviews, but who knows. And again, I rated this episode an 8 because I kind of enjoyed it as much as episode 2. Plus, you know, one thing I have to point out is how perfect the character of Mark was for someone like Piper, and I'm talking about for them to be in a relationship. Hell, at one point in the episode, they even go for a kiss, even though he's a ghost. And I gotta say, I both love and hate when shows do that. I kind of both love and hate when you have your main character and then in one episode you have a character who is perfect, you could say foil or perfect, the perfect person for your main character, but they can't be together because it's too perfect, because that can only happen in the end of the story. So it kind of, I love it and I hate it. So to summarize, first episode 7.8, second episode 8 out of 10, third episode 7.8, fourth episode 8 out of 10. As I said, for my TMNT reactions, if you have not watched them, go watch them if you're interested. I really don't want to give these early episodes the high grades, so I'm trying to restrict myself, because I know that going forward there are gonna be many great episodes, and if I give these first episodes the 10s or the 9s, what am I going to give to those later episodes? So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about these 4 episodes. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Check out the links in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because I'm a writer. There's currently one ongoing story called Dead Inside. If you're interested, go check it out. And if you want to support me because you end up enjoying my stories or because of my videos, you can head over to Patreon or another website which is similar to Patreon called Subscribestar. Both offer the same perks to you and to me as a creator, so it doesn't really matter to me much which one you're going to use, but if you can choose, I'd rather you go to Subscribestar. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, so till next video, bye.